Hello my fellow Fall of the Samurai players, Zaript here, with the second game between Aggony Duck and CW Myth on Tranquil Streams, and this is the second match of semi-finals of Aggony 1v1 Championship 2012. And in this game I believe we can see the real Duck. I mean, a lot of people talking about Duck oh, he's using 8 cavalry units every game. Well, personally, I always remember other side of him. I always remember his no cavalry build against Twitchy, and his no cavalry build against Han Asparuch. So, Duck for me is a player who brings well-tailored builds that suit exact map exactly. And I will explain it when we go over army compositions. Well, let me start with the Duck very fast. We have 2 Shinsegume Police Force, level 3 each, 2 reload upgrades and melee defense upgrades, interestingly enough. Vermilion Dot Force, vanilla. Now then he have only one Shogitai, vanilla one. And quite a lot of spear units. Let's see, Yarikachi level 2, Yarikachi level 2, Spear Levy, Yarikachi level 2, another Spear Levy, and another Yarikachi level 2. So 4 Yarikachi with 2 upgrades in attack, and as you can see he have Spear attack and defense retainers. Same for the Spear Levies. And now for his cavalry he have revolver cavalry and 4 sabre cavalry, all level 2 with 2 upgrades in melee attack. His general is Bushido Gen with gun enabled, and for now I will just ignore the myth and I will try to imagine the Duck's plan. That's again him trying to be as cost effective as possible. He goes with no Yariki. He goes with no Shogunate Guard Cavalry. So he needs anti-cav, which is very sturdy Shinsegume Police Force. They can really survive cavalry charge. And a lot of spears. And he wants to use the spears not only defensively, but offensively. Which is why he kinda ignores Shogitais, only one in the mix. And goes for spears retainers. And now, to make up for melee killing power, he have 4 sabre cavalry. And this revolver cavalry just in case, I guess. Now, if you look at this sabre cavalry stats, 24 melee attack. I mean, they are as good as vanilla Yariki. And cost almost the same. Yeah, almost the same, even cheaper. Because if you forget, if you add Yariki and Yariki melee attack and their anti-cavalry bonus, you will get the same melee attack basically. So this is basically vanilla Yariki, which do very good against infantry. So he kinda changed roles completely. Now his cavalry does not meant to fight other cavalry, which Duck's cavalry usually do. So he does not plan to get map control using his cavalry. And why is that? Well, let me explain. Look at this map. The plan here for Duck is very simple. If Myth deploys on the same part of map as Duck, on the same health, Duck just rush him. Which is easy, right? Because it's very difficult to run from a rush in one direction, and it's very difficult to run through the river. Now, if Myth does what he does, Duck, this is what I call well-tailored build. Look at this terrain. I assure you, Duck does this because he knows about these hills. He accounted for this hill when he brought this build on this map. And now Myth actually cannot engage in fight, even using his 150s, unless he crosses the river. I mean, and he not only he have to cross the river, but to push Duck away from workshop, he have to go all the way here. Maybe he can get some shots from this angle. Maybe he can go around, but for this, he have really commit his line to this part of a river. He really have to commit, and then he will be rushed. Now, really, I think this build can only work on this map, because the main weakness of this build, from what I can tell, different parts of this army pretty worthless on their own. Of course, this melee infantry, these Yarikaches can rush on their own. Of course they can. But this cavalry cannot go away from the main body, because if your opponent have upgraded Yariki, you're done for. And so you cannot really use your cavalry freely, and your line contingent is kind of weak. But still, it's very interesting. 3 line units with kind of poor shooting stats, but very high morale, and morale aura from Vermilion Blood Force. So 12 morale here, 10 morale here, so it's 11 for this Shinsengumi Police Force. Very sturdy army. And Duck really depends on this rule, which forces Myth to attack. Otherwise, this build might not actually work, and it may not actually work on other maps. So let's go over the main points of this build, and I will even speed this up. You need a sort of a camping position, at least the position where you cannot be shooted from 150 range, to keep the dodger. You need a map which forces your opponent to split on 2 parts, or forces him to blob up, which this map certainly do. And what else? Well, you need this attacker-defender rule, actually, because right now Duck doesn't have many tools to force Myth to attack aside from that rule. And then, well, what Myth actually tries to do, what first thing that comes in mind, he don't want to commit. He just brings some units and try to find an angle and get 150 range shots. And let's see what he actually got. Let me go through over his build. Infantry de Marine and Imperial Guard infantry here. So 2 very expensive 150 range units. Spear Levy, 2 Shinsengumi Police Force. Interesting decision, you see. So if somehow Duck decides to charge, he can go back, and this will be a screening force. But I think it's a little bit too much considering the spear levies. Now, red beers, spear levy. So 4 spear levies, 3 red beers. Very similar to what was in a previous game, and I'm not sure if he hiding some cavalry or not. I think he does. I already forgot from a live casting. Okay, yeah, some shooting going on. Okay, some shots, and you see how how difficult it is to shoot here. Angle is so bad and terrain is so tricky that in 2 volleys this Shinsengumi Police Force lost only 8 men. And they will actually get this spear levy for free, I think. Because of this forest and because there is not actually much line of sight, this Imperial Guard cavalry killed only 8 men in 1 volley. And he... Oh, I'm an idiot! Well, if you watched livecast, you probably seen it. You see what happened here. Okay, I didn't miss it. Man, I'm an idiot. I'm a total idiot. I missed the most important part. Well, I hope you will forgive me for that. You see what is happening. Duck just charged all of his unit, making this 150 range Imperial Infantry de Marine and Imperial Guard Cavalry move back. And look what is happening. They are not shooting. That timing was so well that while they were running, Duck's Vermilion Blood Force and Shinsengumi Police Force getting free shots here. And instead of committing, look what Duck does. after just getting in range of this Shinsengumi police force, Duck immediately turns back. So basically no losses. Look at this. No losses at all. While he got 29 kills of this Vermilion Blood Force. 33 kills in this Shinsengumi police force. Can you imagine how just because of this reach, how cool this is? And you can really tell that he thought this out. He watched at this map. He watched at this terrain. He imagined how he would deal with different builds of his opponent. That's what I call preparation. And let's see what Miv lost. You see, he already lost like 23 men in this infantry de marine unit. Just because Miv saw this cavalry charge, he was a little bit scared, he moved back, and at the same time this Shinsengumi police force got over this small ridge and got shot. And that's because you see how close he is to the ridge. All these units just a little bit, they have to move just a little bit. And I'm a little bit surprised, which I forgot to check and I will still check it, how this Vermilion Blood Force get first volley on this Shinsengumi police force. They were staying, this Shinsengumi police force here, you see? And they died. They were in range, they both have line of sight, but unit on a high ground shot first. Okay then, I will speed this up because at this point Miv realizes that he can do nothing at this area, and he decides to somehow change his plan. And while he moves his forces, let's just imagine what he can try and do. And actually, look how difficult things for Duck as well. And oh, how many losses on this Miv unit. Duck has the same problem as Miv. He have to keep his forces together. He cannot go and use this to cross and hit from the back, because there is some cavalry of Miv might be hidden. And now my personal opinion on what Miv could have done better and should have done, I believe. I already told it on a live stream. I think there is one thing that Miv cannot do is cross the river. The moment he crosses the river, he will be charged by melee rush and destroyed because he cannot retreat fast enough. So what he needs, in my opinion, because this ridge does not allow him to use 150 range, I think what he should do, he needs to put his 150s here, as he does, but instead of trying to use them to shoot, use them as a kinda main point of defense on this side of a river. Leave something here, this Shinsengumi police force for example, and then move 2 red bears, one sacrificial red bear on this ridge. So what will happen? These red bears will actually exchange with this Shinsengumi police force and Vermilion Blood Force by staying here. And it would be mostly cost-effective exchange, I believe, because red bears are cheaper. Now, if Duck actually charges them, these red bears, these 150s of Miv will shoot from the back and destroy these units of Duck. Well, at least it's not, of course it's not that easy as I'm telling right now, but that's the only way I can imagine it, because this is a really good idea for this map, for Defender. And well, mistake from Duck here, risking and life of his revolver cavalry, getting only 25 kills and losing 38 men. He got too close here, he misjudged the line of sight of this Imperial Infantry, I believe. No, this no, Imperial Infantry. Okay, and here Miv showing his Yariki, very bad angle to approach. I mean, what is he planning to do? He's charging Shinsengumi police force with level 3 Yariki, And I told you this, that I explained already that this Sabre cavalry isn't much worse than this Yariki. And this Shinsegumi police force has a great morale and great melee, well, for a line, 10 melee attack. And they have hidden bonus against cavalry, so obviously Mif got something from this exchange because this Red Bears got some shots on this Shinsegumi police force and how many? 57 kills on this Shinsegumi police force. Not bad, but overall using this mobile unit and showing off his revolver cavalry not so well. So now Mif have less and less cavalry units to deal with this Sabre cavalry. Okay, let me speed this up again. And Duck actually decides to split his forces now. Engages here on this side. Moving, and yet again, you see what happened? Yet again, Duck getting first volley. I really have to do special video on this first volleys in this game. It's ridiculous. How did he move in and get first volley? I don't understand. 125 range on all units. But overall, yeah, I'm getting off track. I think I explained how I see this build, and I guess it's beautiful. It's so unorthodox build, and the beauty of it that it's not balanced at all. It's not good for any map, and it's generally not good even for this map. Just with the tournament, it's good just for tournament situation. But now Mif actually loses his patience, and because of all the pressure, he probably can't use his imagination to the full power. And even this simple trick that I explained, he doesn't try to use it. Acquire foothold here and move couple of sacrificial units here. I really think that's the only way. I mean, with this build, but now Mif actually does a very well. That's like the last mistake you can do. Not only crossing the river, but look at this. Blobbing up his units in such a way that they really shoot at each other. And now, the only thing, the moment Duck's cavalry really charge through, all of this unit will stop shooting. Let's see at this. And, Duck actually trying to, you see, managing his cavalry to go away from away of the spear levy, trying to go around. Very nice done. And this is over. This game is already over. The moment Mif crossed the river, now he is getting his general is a stand and fight. And look how Duck neatly sneaking his Sabre cavalry in this small choke point, getting from the back. Doesn't even get charge bonus here. But now Mif really have no way to retreat. Full command gen. That's a huge blow, I mean, and this is probably weakness of Mif. He, in this match at least, he showed a little that he lacks a little bit adaptation skills, because you will see it in the next games. When situation goes not as expected, he just doesn't react fast enough, and easily overwhelmed here. 1-1 for Duck, making it a tie in a match right now. Still, Mif showed one important quality of a tournament player. He showed patience. Well, at least he tried to do something interesting by going around and choosing different approach, but I think he should have taken it a little bit farther away, because he had enough time to look at the build of Duck. I mean, nothing happened, right? Duck didn't really pressure him, which isn't very common for Duck. Not putting any real pressure. But, well, for defense, I think it's okay. Okay then, see you in a final stats page. And here we go. So this time, as you can see, both players took quite a infantry-heavy build, but effectiveness, of course, was completely different because, and this is the power of forcing your opponent in a very tight spot. The engagement was very favorable for melee-heavy builds that Duck had, and very unfavorable for Mif's line-heavy build. Now let's take a look at unit stats, and yet again, look at this. Shinsegumi Police Force, Shinsegumi Police Force, and here again, not 150 range units, but Shinsegumi Police Force getting main kills. Very interesting, because at the end, you know, most line units have to engage in melee. Well, want it or not, they have, except for fights against line spam, and this is maybe the only weakness of Shinsegumi, real weakness of Shinsegumi Police Force against line spam. They're not really good units, but let's take in mind that they still have a very good morale. So despite having the same shooting stats as Redbears, they will stay in fight longer, and they will actually win the fight against Redbears. And well, they cost 150 koku more. And as we can see, these upgrades helped a little bit. But overall, I liked how, only 3 line units on Duck side again, and he did use them quite well. He took maximum from them. And this Vermilion Blood Force, they didn't kill that much, but they still had 100 men alive, so they could have impacted game more if game continued. But I should say, I wonder if Duck was lucky a couple of times, because he really got first volleys 2 times when he shouldn't have, I believe. Well, yet again, Yarikachi, as you can see, quite capable in melee against line. Sabri Cavalry, well, no question here, quite capable. And interestingly enough, even after losing 38 men, with 20 men left, Sabri Cavalry killed 70 men more in the end. And Revolver Cavalry, I already told it a couple of times, I feel like Revolver Cavalry do very well with melee rushes. Because when your melee rush goes and connects with your opponent's line, and it cannot shoot, Revolver Cavalry just came from behind and wreck kills without being shooted back. And when you have line heavy against line heavy, Revolver Cavalry cannot easily approach. So interestingly enough, this seems to be a melee rush supporter. Nice support, I should say. And if you watched, if you watched 2v2 with me, Rixeston, Prussian Prince, and Pointman on Pointman's and Prussian Prince channels, Pointman used 4 Revolver Cavalry with his melee rush. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to show us the synergy, because he used his Revolver Cavalry to attack me. So, but I think they should have worked together pretty well. Now, well, not much to tell for me, except for his 150s not doing anything at all because of this terrain. And yet again, I want to emphasize the level of current Duck's play style. I mean, while a lot of people tend to focus on cost effectiveness of the units, of different builds, of using strengths and weaknesses of their armies, Duck really gets it further. I mean, he really adds in this game, it's like he opened additional dimension. he basically exploited the rules of tournament and map features to make this build work. I mean, of course, a lot of people do it like, okay, I'm defender, I'm just going to go and camp this hill like Hana's Paruch against Duck, right? And but this time it wasn't. It's very difficult to call camping. It was much more interesting in a sense. Duck had very aggressive build, and he just forced Myth to get in a place where Duck can attack him. It's so cool. I mean, it's essentially camping, right? But it's so beautiful. Man. And it really opens a lot of possibilities if you know what map would be used on a tournament, and if you prepare for some specific map. It's very cool, and I believe he never used this build, never showed it us before, so it's like one-time build. But I guess essentially it's like another card he have in his deck, which he can use occasionally, which makes his opponents even more nervous. Well then, let's go into the next game.